Hi everyone, welcome back to Nature News Live. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Happy Sunday. We're here streaming on Twitch, Instagram, and YouTube. So if you are joining in any of the chats, give a holler. Today I wanted to chat with you guys about the election and what we can expect really with a new president for the next 4 years when we're talking about environmental policy and climate and nature. So I wanted to kind of see if you guys had questions on what you are worried about or concerns, things like that. And then I had a bunch of things that I was going to shoot to you as well. So if you have things that you want to ask, go ahead and hit me up with those in the chat right now. And if you're joining on YouTube or Twitch, make sure you hit subscribe as always and give this video a thumbs up too. If you're on Instagram, hi over to you guys in Instagram as well. And Miriam just asked if I think Joe Biden is capable of a big change. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think the big thing that is going to be difficult for Joe Biden is going to be if it's basically a stalemate in the House and Senate, and there's not going to be an ability to be able to get things passed legislatively in that sense. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. And I think just like Donald Trump has done over the last 4 years, he's going to have to sign a lot of executive orders in order to get a lot of things done. So I think that's going to be one of the most difficult things for him. Things that he has already mentioned, which are really great, is that he is going to get back into the Climate Paris Accord, which we actually just withdrew from on Wednesday of this past week, I think, officially. He has already committed to getting back into that, which is going to be great for the United States and all the other nations that are part of that as well. Explore with Krieger just said to watch Midway or to watch an awesome informative video. Oh, aw, thanks. That's sweet. Midway is a great documentary. I've watched it with Andrew. I really enjoyed it. So watch it after. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, President-elect Joe Biden has also said that he's committed to net zero emissions by the year 2035. I don't know if you guys follow any of kind of the other countries that have said this, but over the last couple of weeks, China actually committed to going net zero by 2035, and then Japan followed suit. So we are kind of the third country to kind of hop on that bandwagon. And I'm not sure if it's attainable that quickly, but it's going to be interesting to see how many changes we make over the next couple of years on that. In 1 second, guys, sorry, I'm just gonna fix this Twitch stream because I think it's not working. So 1 second. Oh, hi, Niels. Yeah, and we have a fellow Sami joining us from Norway who has said that they have problems with the pastures. Mild autumns have destroyed the pastures. This is something I've chatted with you guys about sometimes. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Let me mute my desktop. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so climate change obviously is going to be one of the biggest things that we have to deal with over the next decades. Obviously, the United States hasn't really been doing anything to prevent it over the last couple of years. We've been kind of making it worse. Unfortunately, President Trump has rolled back a ton of environmental regulations that deal with methane and carbon dioxide emissions and got rid of the Clean Power Plant Act. So do I think states will make their own adjustments toward renewables and green spaces? Yeah, absolutely, because states are already doing this, right? We had California actually passed a regulation a couple weeks ago, basically outlawing the sale of gas-powered cars. I think that's going into effect in 2025. So after that, you're not actually going to be able to even buy a vehicle that runs on, a new vehicle, I should say, that runs on gas, which obviously is going to affect the oil and gas industry in really big amounts, because there's going to be fewer people eventually buying gasoline for that. So I think that states are going to start following suit in that, and you're going to see more and more states, coming up with their own laws if the federal government doesn't necessarily get on the bandwagon. But we've got a lot of states that are run by people that don't necessarily believe in climate change. So a little bit of difficulty with that. And hey, Kristen, good to see you. Thanks for joining in the chat. Some of the other things that President-elect Joe Biden is planning on doing is investing into the green energy sector, which goes hand in hand with all that stuff. He can instruct the EPA actually to develop a more ambitious version of the Clean Power Plan for the electricity sector, and work towards his goal of net zero emissions, which is what I was just talking about, by 2035. This is a really rigorous plan. It's a really big plan. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen in order for us to get net zero, because that's really difficult. There's a lot of industries that are going to have to adapt in order for that to happen. We'd have to have really rigorous new fuel economy standards aimed at ensuring 100% of new sales for light and medium duty vehicles are electrified. As I said, California has already put this plan into order for that state, and I'm sure other states will follow through for that as well. He can also end Trump's oil and gas development bender on public lands, reimposing protections and encouraging safe development of renewable energy. And if you guys are interested in watching anything on public lands, there's actually a YouTube video that was put out actually by Patagonia, but it's called Public Trust, A Fight for America's Public Lands, and it's about the indigenous people in Alaska. And hold on, sorry guys. And it's really a great documentary on that as well. So I would check that out if you're interested in public lands as well. And one of the other things that he can do is actually narrow the path to decarbonization. Actually, in this week's Nature News, which is coming out on Friday, I talked about a new green energy called green hydrogen. And it's could be a really great option for these industries that are really big polluters that have had a hard time transitioning out of really polluting energy sources. So I'm going to explain more about that on Friday this week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Kristen just asked if I can explain fracking. So fracking basically puts big holes down into the ground, and it uses a combination of this slurry, which is water and chemicals. They pump it into the ground to basically crack holes or crack fissures into the bedrock that's below the ground. And they're doing this to actually extract natural gas. So because natural gas lives under the bedrock, you've got grass, then you've got soil, then you've got layers and layers of soil, then underneath that you have bedrock, and then underneath that you have more of the core of the earth. Well, inside the bedrock and underneath that is where natural gas is usually found. So when they do fracking, they actually cut little drill holes into the ground, and then what they do from there is they pump these chemicals into the ground to then further basically create more cracks into the bedrock to find the channels where the natural gas is. And then once that's completed, they can actually then suck out the natural gas. So the issue with fracking is that a lot of times when this happens, they're actually sending those chemicals that they're using to get the fracturing done into our groundwater. And then they're also allowing natural gas to get into our groundwater, because underneath the bedrock normally you have separation between where our water is filtering and where natural gases. And when they do fracking, it basically mixes those up, which is why in a lot of Pennsylvania counties and other places in this country, you've seen probably videos of people with tap water that is on fire. So, and that's what is happening. And in cases where it's not just natural gas, it's other chemicals and things like that they're using. And one of the other things they do with fracking is basically take all those chemicals that they're using to create the fractures, and they're then dumping them into big ponds and letting them sit there, which is also an environmental disaster waiting to happen. Will the U.S. join again the international climate agreement with Biden? Yes. President-elect Biden has already said that he is planning on rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. I think that will probably be one of the first things that he does when he gets into office. So that is definitely something that he's planning on doing. And it's going to be a really great thing, obviously, for the U.S. to do that. And one of the other things that President Biden, when he becomes president, can do is actually use his powers to declare climate change a national emergency. Now, this would be like a fail-safe kind of, if basically the House and the Senate, or the Senate, I should say, is not allowing him to get anything through. He could then use his presidential powers to declare climate change a national security emergency, and that would actually give him the power to implement industrial policy directly. And then he could boost the production of electric vehicles, EV charging infrastructure, long-distance electricity transmission lines, solar panels, and other materials needed to address, the climate change emergency. So I think if he does find himself in a stalemate with Congress, that's going to be probably one of the things that he does. I think he'll always also be using his power to sign executive orders to reverse some of these 125 plus environmental rollbacks that President Trump did in the last 4 years. And I also will say over the next 3 months, I'm pretty sure we can probably expect a lot more rollbacks to happen, because I think President Trump is just going to kind of try and, get as much stuff done that he didn't get to do. So I foresee that happening as well. One of the other questions that I had from just the DMs also was whether or not the new administration will drill for oil in Alaska. If you guys aren't aware, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska recently was opened up to oil and gas drilling. I am not positive how many companies have actually filed for a permit yet, but I know that that's still kind of being upheld in a lot of court battles right now. Now, most of those are going to go to courts in Alaska, but they could go to the federal Supreme Court. I'm not sure what will happen with them now with the new Supreme Court, and because we haven't seen how Amy Coney Barrett actually votes on environmental or judges on environmental issues yet. So there's kind of not really a baseline to know whether or not she's going to go which way or the other. So that's going to be interesting. I know she's ruled on 2 cases so far, but just kind of went with the baseline of what everyone else was doing. So nothing really to, I guess on that kind of stuff yet. But I'm hoping that drilling in Alaska will be taken off the ballot here with a new president. And I will say that I also believe that the Pebble Mine and some of these other things that were potentially going to happen in Alaska, I think are going to not happen. So let's hope for that. And I've got my fingers crossed for that as well, because obviously also drilling and or mining in Alaska is detrimental to salmon, which, as I've talked about in many other videos, is pretty detrimental to a lot of other people and animals and industries in Alaska. Thank you, Kristen. Yes, everyone share my content. Thank you so much. And I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple other things too before we go. I think that my YouTube stream is actually not working again. Surprise, surprise. I was on tech support with Streamlabs last week for like 3 hours and thought I had it all fixed and figured out, and it's apparently not working. So that's great. So thank you guys for joining on Instagram, because I really enjoy, you guys are always so active on here and always chat with me. I really appreciate that. One of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about today was a new study that I actually read this week that's going to be in this week's Nature News also, but that's on plastic pollution, because we always hear that like China is the worst country, right? Well, actually, a new study just showed that America was actually the worst plastic polluter. When am I coming back to the Mint 400? Probably never. I did enjoy that contest, but if I came back to the Mint 400, I'd probably be driving in it. Yeah, but I mean, I guess as far as plastic pollution goes, America is now the worst polluter in the world. We're the worst developed nation. We actually... It's like kind of complicated, but like basically because we send all of our waste to other countries, instead of dealing with any of it at hand, we've now become a worst polluter because we're spreading all of our waste around the world, not necessarily by throwing it in the ocean, but by trying to sell it. And then now all these countries are basically not taking it. So it's kind of being stuck places, and we're not protecting our seas or doing anything like that. So I actually wanted to read you guys a list of things that you can do at home if you want to be a little bit better about protecting our oceans. If you're familiar with the Ocean Conservancy, they actually are a nonprofit agency. They have a lot of like really great stuff that they do to protect the oceans, but they actually have an app that you can download called Clean Swell. If you ever like go to the beaches and pick up trash, you can actually track it in this app, and it goes into a global study that actually tracks plastic pollution. So it's pretty cool. And also, if you eat seafood, one of the best ways to encourage sustainable fishing is to actually ask the restaurants and the grocery stores that you go to actually give you sustainable seafood. So there's a couple different sustainable seafood certification boards out there. MSC is one. I would have to look up a couple of the other ones, but yeah, ask for sustainable seafood. And if you are eating salmon and things like that, I suggest eating wild, not farm raised. It's better for you. They use less pesticides or antibiotics, I should say, as well. And then also always reduce, reuse, recycle. I think that's a given. You can also reduce your carbon footprint by carpooling, biking, doing stuff like that. Crawfish, oh guys, I don't like crawfish. Crab, I will love crawfish. It's a no for me. And yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to share with you guys today. I also wanted to tell you about a couple of shows. If you're looking to watch something like nature related, there's a new show on PBS called The Age of Nature that's really awesome. Definitely check that out. And let me know if you watch it. I think it's a couple different episodes. I think it's about like 6. It's kind of like a mini series, but really, really beautifully shot, and it's definitely a great little show that they have. And then, as I mentioned before, Public Trust, A Fight for America's Public Lands, which you can watch on YouTube, and that is about the indigenous communities in Alaska that fish for salmon, but it's about protecting our public lands. I'm sure any of you guys that are here love our public lands. We've got lots of them in the West, and I certainly spend a lot of time enjoying our public lands. So if you guys are new, make sure you subscribe, make sure you give this a like, make sure you share it with a friend, so we can grow this channel. And if there's anything you guys want to know about, the next president or green or nature or anything like that, make sure you send me a DM. I also put out a new video today, guys. If you haven't checked it out, it is on a beautiful hike that I did here in Georgia called Tallulah Gorge State Park. It's actually one of the largest gorges on the eastern seaboard, and it's got just amazing, beautiful fall colors right now. Hi Hassan, thanks for joining in the chat. So if you guys haven't watched that, the link is in my story. It's also going to be in my bio in a minute here. So check that out if you get a chance, and I will see you guys next week for my weekly live video. So thanks again so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.